Hello guys, Fifth Wing here with a first installment of Splinterlands game theory, where we talk about ideas to improve your win rates and how to approach the game a different way. And in this video we're talking about countering starter Earth decks. Right now, as of Chaos Legion, December 2021, many starter players in Bronze and even Silver notice that whenever your opponents play Earth, they always play a bunch of magic creatures because Obsidian, the new Earth Summoner, is kind of like the new Alaric, where all their monsters get magic. And I don't know how to counter that because there's a new shift in this meta. The thing about Alaric before was that most of the magic monsters are fragile and weak, and they weren't. And the water starter deck before Chaos Legion was released didn't really have any strong tanks. I think there was Lobster Dominus, that was a decent tank, and perhaps Torhelio and Oceanus. Most people played Oceanus, and there was a very easy counter to that back then. And all you had to do was play Bordus and Torhelio, along with one healer, which is Crustacean King. But the problem is now, this meta, with the new shift, Earth has a lot more sustained power than people think. Because they have the Unicorn, and they have the new tank that had Taunt. And the worst part is it has magic attack along with Taunt. And that was a big deal, a big issue. And I was playing at the start of that when Chaos Legion was released. I tried the traditional Bordus Torhelio with the new Mermaid healer. It doesn't really work anymore. And the reason why is because for Earth, starter deck at least, has such a strong amount of damage that it has strong damage and tankiness to where it doesn't help you anymore. Because back then, you either had healing or you had magic damage with Alaric. But now the new Chaos Legion, Earth has a strong magic damage dealer at level 1 and heal. So that makes it a lot worse for anyone to really counter Earth. So I'm going to go ahead and just play out some battles and talk about my theory behind attempting to beat the new deck. So in this battle here, the idea is to use monsters with sneak and just have beefy tanks in the front. Now obviously, before I get into it, I do have a few cards that aren't free for players, such as Phineas Rage and Creepy Noose. Those cost money to actually get, so I understand it's not perfect. But I'll show you that you don't really need Creepy News later. And you do have Urias, which is technically a reward card that you can earn. So I recommend getting these two cards if you can. This one's probably like $5, and this one's like a few cents because it's part of the reward pool for Chaos Legion. So we know that our opponent is going to play Magic, obviously. This case, he actually hedged his deck to have actual anti-melee and Magic. So he does have, this is the card right here, Goblin Psychic, that is really strong for this new Earth deck, Earth Magic. And before in Alaric, there wasn't really any, I would say. Maybe Crustacean King, but you had to level it up, which makes players that have starter cards not actually use. But in this one, you have someone that does magic and heal, which goes really well with Obsidian. That's hard to counter. And then you have the Regal, which is really strong because it has high speed, it has good health, and technically it has 1 magic damage. When you buff it, it's 2 for 5 mana. That's really hard. And this is the new one that's really difficult to counter. The Slip Spawn has 10 health, 2 magic, and if you buff, it's 3, and it has Taunt, making it really hard for people. So the idea is you have this take all the damage, and you have this as a healer. And if you have Wood Nymph, which I actually do play sometimes as Earth, Wood Nymph and Psychic is absolutely toxic. It's basically the equivalent of the old Light deck where you had Divine Healer and the Crystal Smith. Yeah, the Crystal Smith, which was really toxic. So here's the idea. We have melee. Obviously, we have Tarsa melee, so they bust everyone in their health. So let's go and take a look into it. So what's going to happen is there's going to be thorns, unfortunately, but the idea is our opponent is not going to sustain long enough because we have these guys that will bypass that will basically either do a lot of damage to the main tank, right? Because this healer is not going to be enough. You're going to see right here. Notice that he wasn't even able to get a heal off. And yes, my Living Lava's dead. My Phineas Rage is about to die. But we'll notice that, yes, he kills off this guy. And then we were left with three guys left, pretty much. 2 guys died, 3 guys are left. And you notice that this is how big of a difference is that we have strong guys that do damage, right? That hit the back line, or attempt to in this case, and destroy. And if they play that taunt, then you can't really counter the back line per se. But in here's the next battle that I'm going to show you that it will work. So here's this battle. Notice that he doesn't play actual. His idea is that my opponent's thinking that I'm going to mirror match. I'm going to play some sort of magic as well. But in this case, I was like, you know what? We're going to try this. Now I do play chicken, obviously. Now you don't need chicken. You can just put some. You don't even need chicken, but I use chicken. Remember, these two are more important. They're really important. And Creepy News wasn't there. My opponent's trying to play the equivalent of the Alric magic little minions kind of deal, where there's a bunch of small guys, right? And he's had leftover mana, which is like this much. I think it was like about what, 3 or 6. That's enough for like another creature really. That's decent as a tank, but he didn't do that because he thinks I'm a magic play magic. Well, guess what? Sneak is going to decimate the backline in a second here. So that did take a hit technically, but if you think about it, Phineas Rage is not that expensive. So Phineas Rage can really help out in that situation. And notice that the backline is crumbling. So, you know, this is probably one of the only ways that I can think of that can probably help counter this issue. Let me try speeding this up for you guys. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's not speeding it up. So notice that this guy will fall eventually, unfortunately, but then we still have enough damage. So even if I didn't have the chicken, I think it's still enough to kill him off. So you see how strong speed is. But as you can see, even if this guy did die and there was 2 left, that would still be enough to kill him. So the final battle I'm going to show you is another approach with a different splinter, but the same idea is that we have to use Sneak in this situation. Sneak is going to help us. Notice that he's playing the other card that's really strong before, but now it's even stronger because of the new magic meta, Unicorn Mustang. And the reason why it's so strong because it has a lot of damage, a lot of speed, and a lot of health. And the idea is he's going to play this. This card's going to heal this card, and it has Void, so if you do any magic damage to it, it's not going to work. Technically, this card won't help, but because it has Snipe, it's going to hit the backline instead of the front. And the front will just deal with the with this card. Either we can play this card, so I played Curse Windeku to show you guys that technically starter cards can help. So these are all starter cards, guys. So the idea is to play, I think it's Tortoise, I forgot his name, that has minus health and magic, right? So that way it will counter the Obsidian, and it also reduces their health, so it's easier to kill. And then we would play this card, Curse Windeku. You could technically play the other card that has, I'll put on the card, whenever I talk about cards, I don't know what I'm talking about, they're on the screen. But you can see that technically you could also play that card that has Void as well to help, but I technically recommend Curse Windeku because it's a starter card, and people have access to it in their decks, and it really helps because it has a lot of health, decent speed, decent attack, it has Thorns. Thorns is important because it helps counter Unicorn Mustang, because Unicorn Mustang is going to hurt itself, and then you have everyone else is just, you got to play. Everyone else is going to have some sort of Sneak, right? We have Sneak and we have Snipe. Now this card was just leftover mana, but decent card still because, you know, it's range damage. Because Earth doesn't have any way to negate range damage unless it has Shield. So let's go and take a look here. What's going to happen is the backline's going to get shredded, so the Psychic's going to die, and by the time this one dies, you know, everything else will fall pretty easily. So the problem is he played a Regal, which has high speed, so the idea is that it will dodge the speed. So notice that my tank is dead now, unfortunately. Right? But his line is getting crushed. Is absolutely being decimated. There we go, no more healing anymore. So as you can see, his unicorn is dead because of that thorn damage. But even if that thorn killed, even if I didn't play thorns, I still would have been able to kill him because of that. So to sum it all up, play fire melee pretty much. That would fire melee would Sneak, Or you can play Def with a bunch of Sneak as well, because that's the only real way to counter this. Even if they play the Mycelian Slip Spawn that has Taunt, it's gonna basically crush them in the backline, because if they don't have, because they're weak to melee and they're weak to backline attacks, and most of the time they're gonna play their Psychic in the back. So by the time you play your snipes, your sneaks, they're gonna decimate that healer. That's the important thing. Once that healer falls, everything else is gonna fall. They're not strong enough without that heal. So that's all for now, guys. I hope you guys can take something from this video and put it in your games and see yourself improve at the game. This really helped me. It was an eye-opener that even Def has a good way to counter. You don't technically need Oster Rotwell. I tried Oster Rotwell several times. It's kind of a mixed bag. It's a coin flip per se. I recommend the new Chaos Legion Def. It's really good as a summoner. And Tarsa, the fire summoner, is really good. So that's all for now, guys. If you have any more suggestions, perhaps leave them in the comment down below. If you want to see more videos of me talking about Splinterlands, because I love Splinterlands, then probably subscribe. So thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.